we as humans want to live values-aligned lives. So one thought process or practice or lens that we could start looking at organizing through is thinking through what are our most important values in life and how do the items align or misalign with those values.
Hey everybody, Melanie Summers here, and welcome to the Speak Organized podcast. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with my friend Tami Calais. She is an aging and change coach, and she changes the game and flips the script when it comes to having those tough conversations with your senior clients, with your senior family members and friends, and helps us talk about aging and change in a way that feels safe and helps everybody feel supported and moving forward. So she's got tons of really amazing tips to share, insight and information. It's going to be a great conversation, and I know that it's really going to help you when it comes to working with those senior clients. So stick around and let's get into it. Well, what's up, everybody? Again, welcome to the Speak Organized podcast. My name is Melanie Summers, and I am your host, the go-to gal for all things pro-organizing business. I like to speak organized to give you the tools to conquer your clutter, live life with more purpose, and learn all about the business of tidying. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, take out that little device and tap the subscribe button so you become a member of the Speaker fam. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we post new content to the channel. If you are an Apple Podcast user, go ahead and leave us that rave 5-star review that you've just been forgetting to do. It helps the channel grow and reach more amazing folks just like you looking to level up their game. If you're brand new here, there's a link down in the description or the podcast show notes that goes to my free Facebook group full of thousands of organizing enthusiasts starting and growing their businesses just like you, who are chomping at the bit and ready to answer any questions, give advice. You can ask your questions in there. You can give your advice. It's a really great community place, very supportive environment. So again, that's going to be down in the description. Now, also, if you're new here and you aren't totally aware of all the resources that I Speak Organized brings to the table, we've got tons of stuff to help you, both free and paid, to level up your game when it comes to the professional organizing industry. I help folks grow 6- and 7-figure businesses in the professional organizing industry with the right tools and training. So in just a little bit, I'll be sure to let you know what we've got. We have some updates coming through the Speak Organized universe, and so I just want to make sure that you have all the latest up-to-date info about what we have to offer. But first, let's dive into this conversation with Tami. All right, Speaker fam, please join me in welcoming my sweet friend. This is Tami Calais, and she is the founder of Aging and Change Coaching for families who work with seniors, and we're going to really dive into some really important things that I think everybody's going to need to hear. Tami, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, yeah. Now, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on how Tami and I know each other. We're actually gym buddies. And so we both live in Vancouver, Washington. So if you're not familiar with where that is, it's the original Vancouver. It's not in Canada. I get that question a lot, but yeah, Tami and I are actually friends IRL, and we got to talking. And once I found out what she did for a living, I knew I had to have her on the show. I would just love for you to tell us a little bit about your work and what led you into helping families navigate aging related transition.
Yeah. Well, I got started in the senior living industry back in 2010. So I've been doing this for 16 years, and I worked actually in senior living sales. And I found it interesting at first because I was like, I'm not really interested in convincing people to move out of their homes. But I started learning that it really is not so much, the transition is not so much trying to convince them out of their home, but really helping people think about life and what it means to them and what thriving means to them. And that really hit a note for me because I was like, I believe everyone should thrive, even in their 80s and 90s. And for some people, that might mean, being in a community setting. So I started in there. I worked in the community setting for quite a few years and then worked my way up to the corporate side. And in this entire process, they started teaching us a skill set called motivational interviewing, which is really the background and foundation of all the work that I do. And it's a communication method for how we talk about change with senior citizens, or how we talk about change in general. I use it with senior citizens. And I love it because it supports people's autonomy, and it changes the structure of conversations from often you and I as experts in our field, Melanie, will think, well, I'm the expert. I need to tell you exactly what to do. But it flips the script on that and actually supports the autonomy and reminds seniors that they are the experts actually, and they get to decide the next steps, which again very much aligns with my values of supporting people's autonomy. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
That's so beautiful. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned us both being experts in our field. I feel like I have a bajillion questions for you, and this is so relatable, not only in my professional life, but also in my personal life. We're not going to get into that now. But I know diving into this affects everybody, both professionally and personally. And these questions come up. I really encourage people, just shouting this out from the beginning, to follow Tami on social media, because a lot of the questions that you bring to the are all questions that I guarantee every single person has asked or will ask and have to answer at some point. And having the support system that you provide is so, so valuable. So for professional organizers, we often come into homes where adult children are ready for change. We get this a lot, and we tend to work with senior citizens quite a lot. That's a huge demographic for us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the aging parents may not be totally ready, or if they are, they're resistant to the change. I love that you talk about giving them the autonomy, but what we often run into there is resistance.
Yeah.
And that becomes really, really tricky, because it almost feels like they're very stuck in the way they want things done, and they're not willing or able to kind of see past the end of their nose, so to speak. So
Yeah.
why do you feel like aging parents often resist changes that seem practical or maybe obvious to their children and to everybody else?
Well, first off, I want to kind of name a dynamic that might be happening when organizers go in too. You said you're often hired by the adult children. So the senior
Mhm.
citizens aren't necessarily bought into this as a solution or something that they want to do yet. So automatically, Melanie, when I say, hey, Melanie, you're going to do this, what are you going to do? I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really coming into a very tricky dynamic where you're trying to meet your client's need as an organizer, but also reduce the resistance with the senior citizen. And the number one tool that I want to encourage you to start thinking about is starting to validate and talk about empathy with the senior citizen. What are they feeling in that moment? What's that like for them? And we can still move forward with doing the organizing, but unless we start with connecting with them on a human level and what this means to them and what this feels like for them, it's going to be really hard to keep moving forward.
Yeah, agreed. And so I want to really put this into practical terms, because I know exactly what you're talking about. We do get hired often by the adult children who are looking for additional support. We do also have aging parents reaching out to us directly because they recognize something in themselves or an acute incident has occurred.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, it's time to deal with this. But what does it look like in practice? Because this is where a lot of people struggle with the actual real conversation with the aging individual or the aging parent. Like, what does that conversation actually look like?
Well, I want to start with recognizing whatever thing that you hear from senior citizens in those moments where they're feeling a little bit more resistant or like, I don't want to do this, or I'm not ready to get rid of that, or whatever. Start naming the feeling for people. We often bypass feelings often in conversation. And as people that have kids too, I know both of us have kids,
Mm-hmm.
that's something big that's been talked about as a parent a lot more, is naming feelings with our children. But also, that's something we need to do with our aging parents too. This is frustrating for you. You feel overwhelmed by all the decisions. Starting to name those little feelings will help the senior citizen feel a little bit more validated, like, oh my gosh, okay, they get it. All right, I'm not alone in this.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll also calm them down so they feel like, all right, I've got a partner. So now we can figure out the next steps.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I know a lot of my coaching clients struggle with is, they feel guilty going into the homes working with some of these aging adults,
Yeah.
and the fact that they want to talk through things. They're like, I don't feel like I should be charging the person to sit there and listen to the story and whatever else. And my 2 cents is just that sometimes they need that as a mode of catharsis, really, to be able to let go and to process. And so do you find that that's important, like part of the process?
Absolutely. And if maybe that's something that in your business model you start talking about on the front end. Hey,
Mhm.
part of this process is emotional. I would only assume, I'm not in the organizing business, but I would only assume half of have to, like 90% of it is emotional. People don't know what to do with the feelings surrounding items in their house.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start to name that as something that happens at the very beginning and start to recognize like, hey, I might be spending a lot of my time talking through this stuff, then people are prepared that, okay, part of your time is going to be talking through why this item is so important. That's
Exactly. Yeah.
my second thought is I want to recognize that naturally with senior citizens, again, they're tied to different things. I've got all these classic tennis rackets back here. And
Mm.
probably when I'm 85, this is going to be really important to me too. But
Mm-hmm.
spending 5 minutes talking about the importance to this is going to help them to feel like, all right, people see and understand how important it is to me now. And then now we can talk about how we can honor how to best move forward, whether that's getting rid of the item, whether that's my mom has done this, which I love this about her. She started donating items to museums that are really meaningful for her. So even though the item might not be meaningful for our family, it is still a relevant item for humans in general. And so she's found museums for them.
That's amazing. Yeah, it just goes to show you with a little bit of forethought the ways that you can give yourself permission to let things go. I think, for a lot of folks listening and watching who might be aspiring or new to the professional organizing specifically, they don't necessarily know what questions to ask. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into what you're talking about because it's very intuitive of you to recognize that this should be part of your business model on the front end.
Yeah.
Is the questions that you're asking. And so I've framed it as motivational interviewing principles, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
So without feeling like one of the things that ends up happening is we take on a responsibility that we're not necessarily trained for, that maybe you are trained in. We become very unqualified therapists and we take on a lot of the emotional load of our clients and it can become very heavy. And so kind of parsing those things out on the front end, as you mentioned, is really, really important. So we call it motivational interviewing principles. And so without feeling like we're trying to be therapists, without taking on the emotional load, are there a few simple questions or phrases that organizers can use to help clients feel a little bit more in control, especially at the beginning, to kind of set the precedent for making those decisions and moving forward?
I may think about questions, but my first instinct is not necessarily a question. It's actually a statement. So just stating for people the situation. This might be emotional. You might find that a lot of emotions come up when we start going through things. And I want to acknowledge and accept that this is a safe space for that.
Mm.
So when we start with a simple statement like that, one, it sets the tone that I'm here to help through all this. And I'm not going to run away just because you start crying over tennis rackets,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Totally.
The second thing is that I would start to think about is we as humans want to live values aligned lives. So one thought process or practice or lens that we could start looking at organizing through is thinking through what are our most important values in life and how do the items align or misalign with those values. And I think that could be a really good self-reflective process for your senior citizen clients to think about, okay, if I really value, I don't know, community or connection, saving my tennis rackets that I used to play with used to teach junior high kids with, that might be really important. But saving the receipts for that might not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, maybe if we start to think about it from pro-social values too, it might help people to decipher what they really want to keep versus not. Just an idea.
Yeah, no, I love it. Absolutely. And that is part of our job, is kind of trying to figure out what their overall end goal is.
Yeah.
And continuing to loop back to that. That's what I always try to just remind people going into the sort of coaching aspect of it, the clutter coaching, as we call it, is helping everybody determine what their definite end goal is. Is there a definite future use for this thing? Or is it, is it intentional or is it not? Is it aspirational? It's aspirational. Donate it to the museum, or something of that nature. And just having somebody in your corner to be able to help you follow through with that can make the difference between your home becoming its own museum that you can't live in.
Absolutely.
Versus living with intention, as you mentioned.
Yeah. The other question maybe that might be helpful or might not, again, I don't know, but sometimes I do find it helpful to ask the question to senior citizens, but also people in general when they're overwhelmed. Would you like to make the decisions on these items or would it be easier for someone else to?
Mm.
Because sometimes they are just so overwhelmed that they're like, someone just handle this for me. That's not always. I want to be very clear about that. But occasionally that does happen. So there are situations where some people are like, yes, can can my daughter make all those choices? Or can this person make all those choices? Those type of things. But that also starts the conversation too of you are the decision maker. So if they say, yes, I will make all the decisions, all right, that is clear for everyone in the room. They're going to make the decision.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is a perfect segue into the next segment here because I want to bring the conversation back to the adult children a little bit. A
Yeah.
large demographic of the people that listen and watch my show are millennials and
Yeah.
Gen Z. So that we're in the position of being the adult children. And so
Yes.
you mentioned just very briefly just now, can my daughter make all the decisions? So many organizers, as we mentioned earlier, also work with the adult children, and there can be an enormous amount of stress or worry of trying to make the decisions on behalf of their parents. And this is especially hits really close to home for me because I'm an only child.
Mm.
And so being in that position, like I can't really share the load with another person, maybe my husband, whatever, but it's like, I'm kind of like forcing other people. You're trying to like build your support network. It can be really tough. So how can we as organizers who find ourselves in that position, sometimes we become like, we kind of take on the persona almost of the adult child, or
Yeah.
we're helping those clients in that. So there's two different ways that this kind of shows up. So how can we help the adult children or help ourselves as like the stand-in adult children just slow down and communicate more effectively to remind them that they have the decision-making power, that, they have the autonomy or whatever it is, just let's dive into it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's always helpful in general when we're coming into emotional situations to state your intention. Whether your intention is to, I talk about this differently in what I teach,
Mhm.
but I think in your situation, whether your intention is to find a solution and help and figure this out for you, or whether your intention is to be that listening ear as the senior citizen makes their own decisions. If you just kind of state that in the room, again, that sets the tone for what the experience should look and feel like. So then senior citizens can go, okay, that's going to be the situation. Or adult children will say, all right, Melanie's got my back with this.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
stating your
Yeah.
intention can definitely help.
Yeah. From the beginning, again, yeah, it kind of comes to that motivational
Yeah.
inspiration at the beginning. So, what should organizers do with the adult children and the parent if they're clearly not on the same page? What advice would you give to an organizer to kind of help bridge the gap a little bit as that third party
Well,
mediator almost?
first, I think it's very important that we're empathetic to both parties because they are both feeling really challenged. I also kind of want to acknowledge the elephant in the room that I see all the time that isn't necessarily what you guys see, but I talk about with adult children the shifting of roles and whether you need to make that shift in roles. So adult children often become the managers or the caregivers for their aging parents. But the question is, does that role shift need to happen? And so when one, we're empathetic to both situations and validating for both situations, that's really helpful. But two, sometimes just articulating and naming and acknowledging what's happening in the room again gives everyone a chance to just talk about it. So again, starting with who's really the decision maker here today? Who's making the decisions today? And hopefully, most likely, the aging parent will say, that's me. And we're like,
Mhm.
all right. So now we all know that moving forward. So sometimes it's also helping the adult children know, hey, yes, your role is helpful. You set this all up, but now we have to acknowledge that they're the ones making the decisions. Or unless we've identified the adult child, the senior citizen has said, no, I want my adult child to make the decisions, then they will.
Yeah, yeah. So, real quick, fam, one of the conversations that I have with organizers fairly frequently is the difference between a business that is busy versus actually profitable. And this comes up in my membership program all the time when I'm helping people through their financial forecasting to see if they actually have a sustainable business that's going to grow and pay them, because being busy does not equal being profitable. The picture usually goes that they have a full calendar, multiple organizers working, and lots of money coming into the business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're making. You need to know what each individual job is costing you. How many labor hours did it actually require? Did the project run longer than anticipated? Did you pay team members for research, shopping, travel, donation runs? And what other materials and job expenses did you incur on that specific project? Because if you're only looking at what the client paid you, you're looking at the revenue and not the profit, and that's a big problem. This is one of the reasons why I recommend Jobber and why we love and use it, because it has something built into it called a job costing tool. It does all of this automatically where it calculates all of the expenses, materials, labor hour, shopping, returns, all of those different things get itemized out and compared against what you actually charged the client so that you can tell right off the bat with that tool whether or not the job was profitable. It's going to help you price jobs in the future, determine how to staff them, what materials you have. Your estimates are going to be a little bit more on point because you have the data available. And once you have that information, you feel empowered to know what types of jobs you want to take on. You can start feeling comfortable and confident saying yes and no to certain things. So if that sounds like the kind of confidence and control that you want to have over your finances in your business without really having to do the work, you don't really have to lift a finger. It's integrated in Jobber. I have the link hookup for you. So down in the description and the podcast show notes, you can check out a 2-week free trial. If you love it, which I'm sure you will, you have the opportunity to use that same link to sign up for a 20% discount for the first 6 months. Go down there, check it out. It's risk-free. I highly recommend it. It has made running the business so much easier and so much more insightful. All of those wonderful things that I want for you as well. So all that information is down there. If you have questions, please comment below. Let's get back to the show. Thank you to Jobber for sponsoring today's episode. There's sort of a dynamic tension that's going to happen here, especially with us as the organizer being the sort of like third party mediator. So
Yeah.
there is a line between being supportive and getting pulled in the middle. And I'm curious too, do you find that it's more so with your clients? Do you find that the adult children are being controlling and not allowing their parents to have the autonomy, or is it the inverse, or is it is it a little bit of both? Like, what do you often see, and how would you as that third party mediator kind of come in to help shift the dynamic to more of a supportive, balanced environment?
Wow, you just named something so heavy and hard for so many people.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of both. It's a big collision of two different things happening. So the role shift starts to happen and change because adult children, again, Melanie, you and I are kind of right in the age group of it. We are in the heights of our career. We have young children. We're in decision mode every single day. So every single day we are just going and making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming up for us. So we are problem solvers professionally. And then you've got aging parents who are starting to slow down a little bit. They're starting to, have a harder time making decisions, whether that's because they're, processing takes longer, or because they know through wisdom, sometimes things just naturally work out or don't work out, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a collision course because we're seeing that happen as adult children and we go, I got the solution. Let's just make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes this situation. And then I think it's so easy for us to want to problem solve and take care of that for them. But in reality, I was actually listening to one of your previous episodes this morning in preparation for this. You were talking about, again, we have to allow them the autonomy to make those choices and to solve their own problems. And that's what I really love about motivational interviewing as a concept and as a communication method. It's the belief system. It is not my job to fix people's problems, period. It is my job to help them find the solutions within themselves. And so coming into that dynamic as a professional organizer, your job is to, be empathetic to both parties, but it is up to them to figure it out. And you can help facilitate that if you want to by trying to create a safer space for everyone to talk about it and communicate about it. But at the end of the day, your job is not to always fix the problems, but to help people find the solutions within themselves.
Yeah, I really hope everybody rewinds that and hears you say that again, because as organizers and even just as people, as you pointed out, you and I both, I have young kids, you have really young kids. where it's just, we are professional decision makers. And that essentially is what a professional organizer is. And so we make categories, we decide zones, we set up the spaces, we help people through that decision fatigue and kind of take on some of that load. So it's important to understand that it's okay not to be the person to make those decisions, but to allow them the freedom to make what decisions are going to be best for them moving forward. And so now, in terms of practical application, just a couple more questions before we move into our rapid fire round to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about if you're an organizer walking into a downsizing or a move prep or a safety related project. So I'm sure you deal with a lot of situations where somebody is, there's maybe some cognitive decline or they're starting to fall. And once somebody falls once, it starts to happen multiple times. And there's all kinds of stuff that comes in. So what mindset should they bring with them, and how would we maybe remember to work through those situations sensitively before we even touch a single item?
Well, first off, again, a lot of what I believe in is coming in with empathy. And there's a phrase that I like to remember. It's the listen. It's lean in to silence and try empathy next. So think about the word listen, lean into silence, try empathy next. So when we start conversations that way, we create a safe space. But the second thing I want to say, when we also need to make some movement forward, we got to get going with things. It also starts with naming parameters around a situation and then asking them for next steps. Okay, so if we know that this space can only hold 3 items and you've got 10 items over there, what 3 items do you want to move in? So again, it's adding those parameters, but still evoking or asking the participant to say, you get to choose. Where do you want to do? Where do you want to go with this? Same goes for like senior citizens that they've got a safety challenge, help, their house is not working for them anymore and we've got to get some things out or downsize or whatever. Your hallway is only this big. We know we can only fit X, Y, and Z in there. What items do you want to do? Or knowing that your hallway is only this big, how do you want to solve this? Like even just starting there before you even start organizing anything. When we talk about the first questions to do, that would be one of my first things that I would actually start off with. Again, they're hiring you as a professional, but I'm sure they have some ideas in their head. So starting off with asking, well, you've been thinking about this for quite a while, and obviously you want a little bit of help and guidance with how to organize, but what ideas do you have to better create a space that feels organized and ready?
Right. So important. So important to build that trust, and I think there's other emotional aspects that come into building trust. And so I'm curious if you, in your practice, the way that you work with these families and aging parents, is there a simple strategy that you use right away to start creating trust with your senior clients?
I mean, yeah, I use a lot of empathy building tools, which again, empathy is not just the words that we speak, it's our body language. It's eye contact. It's leaning in when they're talking versus leaning out. It's sometimes physical touch. It's active listening. So not just speaking over them, but making sure we're listening to what they're saying. Sometimes it is respectful silence. These are all micro moments that show people what empathy is. And so when you start to do these things together in a safe space, they start to feel heard and understood. But most importantly, again, when you come in stating your intention of how you're there to help, you create all these non-verbal cues for empathy. And then on top of it, you start by asking about what they want to get started with today or what ideas they have to solve this. I mean, that creates a space where they go, all right, I trust you. You know what you're talking about, but you're also including me in the process.
That's beautiful. I love that you talk about nonverbal cues and micro moments. And I know that there's so many different things we can dive into that I wish we had time for. Perhaps we'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
Just saying. But I know that in the meantime, questions are going to come up. People are going to have thoughts and opinions and ideas and questions, and they're going to want to follow up with you. So where can our listeners learn more from you, especially if they have clients or family members who need support around age-related transitions?
Yeah, I mean, you can find a lot of stuff on my social media. It's at Aging and Change Coach, or you can check out my website, which is www.agingandchangecoach.com. Again, I specialize in helping families talk about age-related changes or transitions with senior citizens, whether that's just talking about having an aging plan put together with your loved one, or talking about like, hey, we need to probably hire in-home care, or we need to talk about the fact that mom has dementia and what that means in the future. So those are kind of the scenarios that I tend to help with.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I can think of many situations that I've been in with clients where having somebody like you at their disposal to put that sort of legacy planning piece in place would have been so instrumental in lessening all of the family mediation that we find ourselves in the middle of with all this stuff.
Well, and I mean, when you think about it, this is what's so mind-boggling, and this is my mission is I want senior citizens to have as much autonomy as possible as they age. I want their voice to be in every room. But to do that, that means you have to have family conversations about your wishes. And if they're not having those conversations, and if adult children aren't having those conversations, no one knows the wishes. So it puts adult children in a hard spot. Now they're feeling guilty making decisions for their loved ones. And it makes senior citizens frustrated because their voice isn't being heard. So again, it's all about creating spaces for people to talk about this.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. I'm sure that we could go off on so many rabbit holes just on that conversation alone. That's for part 2, but I want to move into rapid fire real quick because I find that it's fun to get to know our guests a little bit more intimately. So don't think too hard about the answers to these questions. I want you to just give me the first thought that comes into mind, even if it's completely ridiculous, because those end up usually being the absolute best moments of the show.
I love it.
Are you ready for it, Tami?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Coffee, tea, or something else?
Tea.
Tea. What kind of tea?
I drink typically mint tea a lot, or like chamomile.
Nice. Do you drink caffeine? Are you a caffeine person?
I know. You said that the other day in class, and I was like, I'm not a caffeine person either. Don't like it.
I love it. I don't meet very many of us out there. We're a rare breed. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. What's one thing in your own home you probably would never declutter? Like, what would we have to pry from your cold, dead fingers?
Oh my gosh, my junk drawer. I'm sure everyone has one, but I'm just like, it's fine. No, don't worry about it. It's fine.
It's so funny. Yeah, we call them utility drawers in the professional organizing space. We like to like de-junkify them and like, make them more utility. But I love it. We will
just the junk drawer, and so that's I don't know.
Yeah, there is something kind of nostalgic and romantic about just like rummaging through a drawer full of random whatchamacallits,
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I do. All right. Are you more of a planner or are you more of a figure it out as you go person?
I'm definitely a planner, but I embrace the figure it out as you go.
Love it. I love it. Yes. It's good to be a good balance of both. What book, podcast, or resource would you recommend most often?
Oh my gosh. One of my favorite podcasts. I mean, I like many, but I've learned so much from is called The Happiness Lab.
Okay.
And I share one of the stories, is one of the key stories I learned from there. It's just so powerful because it talks about how we fear communication and connection, but we also crave it at the same time. And she shares some great stories around that. So I love that podcast.
And what did you call it again? The Happiness
Lab?
Cool. Yeah, I might have to link to that down in the show notes. That's awesome. Okay. What is one small thing that instantly makes you feel more grounded?
Journaling. I'm a big journaler.
Cool. Do you like gratitude journaling? Do you like stress journaling? Is it just general, like Dear Diary type of stuff? Or like, what's your vibe?
I mean, all of those things are my vibe, depending on what's happening in the season of life. I've definitely done some angry journaling. I've definitely done some gratitude because I'm like, I got to bring up my gratitude. But I also just love just writing down like key moments in my life right now and just recognizing that. I work with senior citizens, so I think a lot of this from their lens, and I go, what would my 80-year-old self want? And I'm like, how fun will it be to look at my journals through college and like laugh at some of the silly moments? And I can go on, but
I love that. That's beautiful. All right. What is something about you that people might be surprised to learn?
I'm a really goofy human. And it's hard because I talk about a lot of heavy things on my social media accounts because it is heavy. We're talking about real emotions. We're talking about aging. We're talking about family dynamics. Like that's hard, but I am actually quite goofy. I love, my little sunglasses.
Those are amazing.
But I used to rock all the time in the corporate world, coming into meetings with these on.
Yes, you did. You know what's funny about you, Tami, is that I didn't know, like, I didn't meet you in the professional realm. I met you in more of like the personal off-duty realm at the
Yes.
gym. And so your just fun, smiley, bubbly, goofy personality is like how I knew you.
Oh, good.
Like coming into class, like you can
Yes.
always tell the people that come, you're like, well, I'm going to stand in the front and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just here to have a good time. And woo. Like you could show up wearing those green glasses and I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. So it's just funny having that kind of reverse perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know it's funny because there's times where people meet me and they're like, wow, you're so like put together. And I'm like, I mean, I am, but also, this is me too.
Yeah.
I just have to be that personality sometimes too.
Yes, you do. And I appreciate that about you so much. All right, my last question, and this, I guess you can just rapid fire it if you can. If you could give adult children one sentence to remember before talking to their aging parents, what would it be?
This is my best communication tip in general too, but acknowledge how people feel and acknowledge what they want. When we do those two things in one sentence, it helps people feel heard and understood, but it moves conversations forward as well because people tend to respond to the last thing you said. So if you start with how they feel and you end with what they want, they're going to keep on talking about what they want.
Beautiful. I love that. That's so well said. Tami,
yes,
this was fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about this. Again, fam, if you're listening or watching, go down to the show notes of the podcast so you can check out all of Tami's information. I'll make sure to have everything linked because I know you're going to want to have her in your corner. There may be questions that come up. Maybe people will have the opportunity to work with you, bring you in as part of their support system. I have no idea. So sky's the limit at this point. But Tami, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. It's always a great conversation, Melanie.
Until next time. All right, fam, imagine this. You are sitting here in 6 months, sitting right where you are now, and you're running your own professional organizing business that is effortlessly scaling to 6 figures. How awesome would that be? But let me guess, you're sitting here today and you've got that voice of imposter syndrome whispering in your ear, who am I to do this? Well, let me tell you, I have been there, and it is not only possible to overcome those doubts, it is essential because your future clients are looking for you, not anybody else, you. So, how do you scale a 6-figure business? It's easy. You stick with me. I got you. It is my honor to introduce you to my Empowered Organizer membership community, which is a game changer for turning your passion into, if you want, a full-time 6-figure gig. We've got done-for-you scripts and resources, collaborative monthly coaching calls, and a supportive community to fast-track your success by avoiding all the superfluous fluff and, of course, all the dumb mistakes that I've made over the years so that you don't have to make the same ones. You're welcome. Head to melaniesummerscoaching.com/empowered-organizer to learn more and enroll today. And don't worry, it's kind of like your favorite streaming subscription service. You can cancel anytime and renew when you want. And if that weren't convincing enough, let me give you just a little taste of the treasure trove that you'll find when you head to ispeakorganized.com/courses. First, you'll definitely want to check out my overbooked course, packed with golden nuggets to help you get clients and fill your calendar so that you can work full-time as a professional organizer. Or if you need a little personalized guidance, my one-on-one coaching sessions are perfect for getting your most burning questions answered, helping you move forward confidently. Or how about I save you loads of precious time with my professional organizer forms pack, 9 done-for-you customizable forms, including a client agreement, so that you can start taking paying clients ASAP. And don't miss my ChatGPT prompt guide with over 750 prompts to optimize tasks like social media captions, blog posts, and more, engineered for success every time. Again, visit ispeakorganized.com/courses to explore all these options and more. Are you ready to take the leap? Visit the link. I know you want to. All right, fam, that is going to wrap it up. Again, thank you so much for sticking around. I really hope that you got tons and tons of value out of this conversation that you can bring on the job site, that you can bring into your personal life to help everybody feel safe, feel sane and supported, all the wonderful things. If you guys have questions, please let me know. The Facebook group is a really, really good place to connect with me, especially if you tag me in a post. I'm more likely to see it and get you an answer straight away. Beyond that, I hope you guys have an absolutely fabulous day. I will see you in the next one because you're going to remember to subscribe to this channel. Have a good one. Bye.